Alrighty, folks, let's pop some music on and get this show on the road, shall we? Let me pop over here so y'all can see me. Hello, welcome in, everybody. My name is VooDoo Val, and I'm going to be your host yet again for the Daily Creative Challenge. And as promised, today is a little bit special. So we are doing, as you could probably tell from the recap or thumbnail, that it is the community recap, but this community recap is extra special. We are not going to recap just what we have been doing as far as kind of showing off what I've made. We are going to dive into an hour-long project and kind of implement the stuff that we went over earlier in the week to create a main project, which I'm really excited about. So I already see so many familiar faces in the chat. I see Susan Holt. I see What Color is the Sky? Welcome in. I see RB and Frank. Hello. I see Z. Welcome in. General Kenobi. Hello there. CJ's holding down the fort in the chat. Sean, Ted. No cosplay. No cosplay today. And it's not because it's a 1 hour stream. It's because Val just moved. So my costumes are in a box in limbo somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure where they're at. So unfortunately, we have no costumes today, and I apologize for that. But that just means that I'll have to go extra crazy with the costumes next time. But let's dive into a little bit of our project. What I'm gonna do real quick is make sure I have challenges from previous days opened up real quick, because we're going to take a look at stuff that we have done previously. Let me pop over here so you folks can see it. Yes, so what we're going to be focusing on, really, I'm going to kind of bump this guy over real quick so we can see. What we're going to be focusing on a lot in this is the utilization of smart objects to create sort of modules for our project. We're going to be using the text effects, which we've gone over how to create a pretty cool kind of oozy text effect with smart objects. And then we're also going to be using generative fill to create some modules. We're going to be designing some of these things from scratch, utilizing the same techniques we used on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and putting together a poster, which if you check the description below, you can snag the starter file for today, which looks a little something like this. This is a little 11 by 17 poster, and as I mentioned yesterday, I do a lot of anime conventions and comic conventions and things where I go and sell my prints, and 11 by 17 is typically the standard for what you can expect to purchase as a print at these conventions. And I realized that 11 by 17 might not be your standard poster size as far as purchasing one at the store or wherever it is you get your wall decor, but it is a standard for me. It's something that I'm used to, and I've come to really love this orientation of posters. So we're gonna go with that, and I'm actually gonna pop myself over to this side of the screen so everyone can see our layers, and I'm gonna show you what we've got cooked up here. You'll notice I did have this open over here. This is a secondary file, which is our challenge 4. And what I'm gonna do, let's pop over into here. You guys will notice that there is a folder in here called text effects, and I'm just going to bump this up here so we can really take a look at our layers. So if I open the text effect, you can see we've got a very similar thing going here as we had in challenge number 2, where we had all of our various layers that allowed us to come and edit our text with all of the effects on it. And you'll notice that the displace is off for most of these. If I go ahead and turn them back on, we can zoom in here and take a peek. You can see that there is a displacement map attached to this. However, you may need to recreate your displacement map, because this is a displacement map that I have created myself for my own project, and you won't have the file to write it to, and I'm not sure if that will show up properly for you. So we're going to get in here and kind of noodle around first with our main title text for our project, utilizing this template, and see if we can't come up with something awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead in here and delete the displace smart filter because we don't really need it. You will find, however, that the smart objects are all duplications of each other. And let me know in the chat, folks, because we're going to get in and we're going to kind of dissect this here today and make it work for everybody based on whatever they need for their project. But let me know how you're finding kind of the copy of our text effect. So I'm just going to double click here. And that does open our text layer where it says challenge 4. So you can see that I've kind of, I've got it all linked up here. And what we can do is change this to something interesting, which I think that I may go ahead and change it to somebody's name in the chat, which I see Clarissa is saying, doing these challenges isn't as easy as Val makes it look. I sure enjoy the DCCs. Well, Clarissa, I think really it's just a little bit of practice. I'm going to give you a little bit of boost. I'm going to send you some extra strength and luck in the force here. We're going to use your name in our in our project, okay? Clarissa, I'm pretty sure I spelled that right. Yes, Clarissa, you are going to be with us in spirit, all of us today, for our challenge example. I'm gonna go ahead and make this larger. Boom, hit enter, and then I'm just going to hit Control S. Okay, so we've got Clarissa in the project today. Yeah, replays are very helpful. Sometime in the distant future, you will try to remember that technique that Val showed on this one day. Yeah, and you know what? This is something where a lot of these challenges that I put together are things that I have needed in my personal art journey, and so creating a class for all of you to be able to do those things as well is something I felt would be valuable, because if I found myself in the position to need a text effect template, then so have you. So without the displacement on this, you can see that we've got like kind of a nice smooth almost airbrush vibe for our title, and we can come in and recreate a new displacement map for this to kind of give it a little wiggly wavy vibe if we want to, and this is how we're going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and close my text effect. I'm going to hide my info because we don't need our info, and I'm also going to hide our arch. We're just going to take a close look at our title here. And I think that I'm going to Control T and just bump this down like so. And then I'm going to create, like I said, a displacement map. Now, a displacement map is a Photoshop file that's going to be read in black and white and judge the dark and light values as varying depths within the project. So if you apply a displacement map to the Clarissa name, you will notice that it does in fact kind of mold the text or whatever is on the project, on that layer, into the shape of that displacement map. And there's a lot of really cool things that you can utilize displacement maps for. So like right here we have Clarissa. So we're gonna go ahead, let's hide the text effect just real quick. I'm gonna take this background and I'm actually going to hit Control or Command U to open up my hue and saturation, and I'm gonna turn that saturation down. I'm also going to hit Control L for levels, and I'm just going to make this a lot more dramatic than before. So this is like, you know, like we're kind of transforming this into something that is a lot crazier. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And then I'm going to come up to Filter. Now you could do maybe wave on this. If you go into distort and wave, you can add some pretty crazy wave things here, which I actually think is pretty cool. The only thing with the wave, however, is that if you're going to be using, it's a lot of detail to be using like one single like tiny line of text for. That's difficult because if there's tons and tons of detail on your displacement map, then your smaller lines of text might become a little unreadable, to be honest. So something that you can also do is come up to filter and go to Liquify. And Liquify is your very best friend in many, many ways, because it allows you to kind of add a little craziness to this. I love to use Liquify for textures and such, and just kind of drag through and start creating, you know, these swirling patterns in a way that really kind of adds some nice texture. So I am going to, yeah, probably just use a Liquify for our texture, and I'm just dragging this around. I've just left it on the, I believe this is called the forward warp, yes. And I'm just creating these little swirls, almost like a marble cake, you know? I just want to get this marbled texture in here, something that is not too insane, but still kind of gets our point across the way that we want it. And I think that's going to do it. Let's go ahead and just be satisfied with this. We've got a lot of crazy town going on back here, so we're going to make a new layer with Control Shift in or Command Shift in if you're working on a Mac. And I'm just going to take this and paint bucket white back behind here. Let's go ahead and drag that behind, just so that this is a solid layer, because you can see if we don't have that showing, you can see the blank canvas, the invisible canvas checkerboard back there. And I want this to be all one solid layer. So we're just going to go ahead and merge those. Control E to merge all of those, or Command E, and we're going to make this a displacement map. I might actually go into levels with Control or Command L one last time and kind of make this a little more dramatic, so that it's really dramatic. I kind of like that because we really want it to read that depth with a kind of sharpness. So I think that that will work. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say Control Shift S or Command Shift S if you are working on a Mac. And this is going to be my save as. You can see that I have been doing a lot of various tests for this. And I'm just going to call this displacement 5. Save. Does it already exist? Let's call it displacement 6 then. 6. Save. So that's its own displacement. And now I'm also going to resave this with the same hotkey, and we're going to call this challenge 4, and I'm going to do underscore stream, so that I know this is the one that I'm working on the stream. So now I have two different files. I have the one that I'm working in, and I have the one that I've saved as a displacement. And we are going to go ahead and hide that. We'll make ourselves a new layer with white in the background, just so that I can see what's going on. We'll reopen our text effect, turning that on, and let's start applying a displacement to our text. Now, we are editing a previously created text effect, so I don't know why that's doing that. We are editing a previously edited text effect because I've kind of dragged my layers into this file for you guys so that you have what we worked on challenge number 2. So what we are going to do is apply a displacement to all 3 of these effects layers. Let's go ahead and actually, let's experiment a little bit. I'm curious to know if all of these are linked to this one here, which is hidden, that we put our text in. I'm curious to know if we add a displacement to this, if it will just go ahead and auto update throughout. Let's go ahead and try that. So let's, with that selected, let's go ahead. I'm going to turn the fill all the way down on it. Let's go ahead and go filter, distort, displace, because that would save us a lot of time and be pretty darn great, actually. So let's leave it at 10 and 10. Let's go ahead and say okay, and then we're going to go to displacement 6. Did it do it? I don't think it'll do it. Oh no, it did a little bit. It did a little bit. Let me see. But only that one layer, so we are going to apply it. Let me go ahead and hide this, and we're just going to come in and do this. Now, another thing that's really cool, when you apply a filter, it will actually apply your most recently used filter up here at the top. You can actually just do Alt-Control-F, and it will open up whatever panel you used for your previous application, which is pretty darn useful. So I'm just going to pretty quickly apply that displacement map to these, but luckily for us, it is actually a very quick process. Once you've made your displacement map, you can actually very, very quickly come in and do this. So just filter, displace, you don't have to search for it in the menu, and just make sure you're clicking that same title. And that's honestly pretty cool. It almost looks windswept and strange, because we've got like those swirls kind of coming through there. And what I want to see if we do here real quick is if we kind of group these together. I don't know why it's not allowing me to like hold my space bar and move it, but that's all right. We can kind of work around that. Let's Control T or Command T and transform it and just kind of bring this down if we can. Let's kind of drop this down right here because I want to see. You'll notice because the displacement map was the entirety of our canvas, if I move Clarissa down a little bit, then it starts to be displaced by that portion of the map instead of the same effects it had before. So if I go ahead and hit Control Z and bring it back, you can see there was a different kind of ripple in the displacement map up above there. So it kind of takes on that texture, and wherever I move it around on my canvas, as long as there's more displacement map to work with, it is going to take on a kind of difference in texture. So what I'm going to do is duplicate that text effect, even though it's a pretty big layer. It might have to do a little bit of thinking real quick because it's pretty giant. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that copy into a smart object so that we have this nice little Clarissa name that we can move around pretty easily, because I like that texture that was in it. And then another thing that I want to do with our text effect is I would like to use this to create just a really large shape. So what we're going to do is come in here with our text tool, and I'm going to just write a capital O, all right? Just a capital O. And I might even crop this like so, and just give ourselves a little bit of extra room. If I can, if it'll let me resize. Or I can just, actually, let's just resize the template itself. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And we are going to get ourselves like a really cool, strange ring going on here. Let's come over into our template, and I am going to resize this, if it will allow me to resize. I'm not able to resize, which is a little strange, but I'm kind of having like this weird stuttering issue. I think what I'm going to do is restart my Photoshop. I'm going to go ahead and save so that we have all of our changes saved and everything. This is something that happens every once in a while, and I'm just going to go ahead and push through it and work through it. We're going to switch over to my face cam real quick, and I'm just going to roll with the punches here. So I'm going to go ahead and shut Photoshop, and we are going to reload it real quick. This is real design, real time. So if you've ever come to a point where you need to reboot one of your apps or whatever, please know that it's not you, it's not, it's not anybody's fault. It is something that just happens as we work through our projects, and it happens to everybody. Let's go ahead and open Challenge 4 Stream, because that is where our main work is going to be, and hopefully it will allow me to, yes, okay, let me pop back over here. Boom. So we've got this circle, which is allowing me to resize it now, and I'm going to go ahead and resize. I really, really like this. I really love that everything is like kind of strange and crazy. I kind of want to make this larger and like throw this up here, and let's see what kind of texture we can really get. It kind of looks like, almost like, when you see like a mirage in the distance, it kind of reminds me of that. Like you can kind of see like this crazy wiggly structure. And I really like that. Another thing that I want to do is see if we can displace this just a little bit more. Like let's make this even more crazy, if that makes sense. Let's kind of bump this down just to give it some room. And I'm going to come back into this displacement. And I might hide these, and let's go ahead and redo the displacement filter. So we'll go filter, distort, displace. We're going to use this text effect to create an asset rather than a title. So let's say 50. Let's make this a little more dramatic. Get our displacement there. Okay. Let's get a little crazy. Let's go ahead and filter, displace, and it's set to 50 still. Very easy to recreate. Let's go ahead and one more time. Displaced. Okay. Displacement 6. I like this a lot. I feel like we're really getting somewhere with this because this is something we can use. Let's kind of move it around in our map and see if we can create some different textures that maybe work better. That one's maybe a little too crazy. Let's see about bringing it up here and into the corner. What does that kind of give us? Because we're kind of moving it around on that map to see, I like that. I do like that. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm gonna duplicate. And it's gonna do a little thinking. And then I'm gonna convert it to smart object, and we're just going to use that as well. Convert to smart objects. We have this strange ring, which I do really think is super cool. And maybe we can use this as a focal piece for our project. So if I'm gonna put that like right there in the center, we can start to build a poster around like this strange shape, which I think is cool. Maybe we can have something overlapping it and kind of creating a cool layered effect. So let's do that. Let's use some generative features, generative fill specifically, to create some textures and things that we can start to apply to our project to give it a little more life. Because right now we just got a blank canvas and we've got this interesting text effect that we've been experimenting with, but we need a little more interest in this. So let's come over, and I think I'm just going to duplicate this background here. And I'm going to go ahead and hide our text effect right there. And this is going to like seriously echo our first challenge. The first challenge we did this week was using generative features to create textures and merge things together and create our own unique assets, which is basically what we're doing here. So I'm going to go ahead and select my whole canvas. You can also do that by just hitting Control or Command A, which selects your entire canvas. And we're going to say generative fill, and I am actually going to type something into my generative area here, and that is, I'm going to say that we want dark blue and gray, marble, I think I spelled marble right, maybe, texture. Let's just see what we get. Let's just see what we get with that. Let's generate. Because what I want is a kind of a earthy texture that matches our main colors that we have for our text effects, that we can like sort of start to overlap and, ooh, uh-oh. That's really cool. Okay, let's see what we got. I like these a lot. Let's change it. Let's change it up a little bit, and let's say dark blue and gray charcoal texture, because I want something that's like, I didn't think it would give me like stone. I just wanted like marbled textures, but maybe I should have thought about that. But it did give me some great stone images. That's perfect. Joshua, welcome in. Clever Devlin, hello. Countertop, backsplash. I don't know, I kind of want something like, this is maybe too brushed. You know, like I want something that is like agate, you know what I mean? Like flat, you know, and I want it to be pretty uniform as far as like the veins through it. So maybe we should try that. Also throw some different prompts in the chat if you have any prompts you'd like to share, because what I'm going for is like a kind of, let's say, agate stone texture in blues and grays. I think that's how I spell agate. I'm a terrible speller. I can draw you some letters, but I can't use them properly, folks. That's just how this goes for me sometimes. And I think we're all doomed. Ooh, that's pretty cool. We're all doomed to misspell at least one thing on a live stream. That's just how it goes. Okay, this is cool. I'm gonna generate again, because one of those is really neat. I wonder if we could say painted on paper, like somebody has, like maybe watercolor. These are great. Made with watercolor. Maybe give it like a little more, I don't know, a little more something something, a little more texture to it, because I don't need it to look like stone. Does Firefly mind if you yell at it? I saw Sin typing in all caps also. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I just like it because it looks a certain way, you know, like when I'm, that's actually cool. So it's like a watercolor painting of it. Let's stick with charcoal, and let's say swirling charcoal texture in blue and blues. Maybe I'm being a little too crazy with it. And this is one of those things where, like, when you see what you need, you see it. And then what we're gonna do once we find like a good one that I feel matches kind of the vibe I'd like to go for this project. Uh-oh, that's pretty cool. Honestly, you guys could make a displacement map with these. If you went into Liquify and it wasn't your thing, you could use that to create displacement maps, and that would be really amazing, actually. So maybe try that out, because that would be a great idea. We're gonna use masks and stuff to kind of overlap. This is pretty cool. This is pretty darn cool. This one is a little too swirly. I'm starting to think that this one works for me, honestly. And it's not exactly what I envisioned, but I do like it. So I'm going to duplicate that generative layer, and I'm going to go ahead and rasterize it. And let's also remove, let's delete the layer mask. So now I have literally, like, if we come over here and change to another one of these, now I have my own asset layer of that texture, which is pretty darn cool, actually. I'm going to go ahead and hit this generate button just one more time, just to see if we can come up with something slightly more close to what I was envisioning in my head, and see what we can do. But aside from that, I think we'll go with the texture that we created. I sense an unusual amount of fear for something as trivial as these Firefly prompts. Yeah, you know, I think that using Firefly and developing a prompt, this is actually really cool. I don't know if we'll use that, but it is pretty neat. I think developing a Firefly prompt has really made me realize how I speak versus what I mean. Because I find that, you know, I can't use slang, and I need to be very intentional with what I am truly looking for, because it'll give me exactly what I ask for. And that's when I realize that what I'm asking for actually is not either grammatically correct, or I'm saying, I'm giving a description of something as I understand it, but it's not actually factual. Does that make sense? I'm sure other people have run into this where I'm like, oh, I need to be more intentional with how I'm speaking about this, because I'm not getting the point across perfectly. Okay, so I want to transform this. Let's go ahead and convert it to Smart Object now, because what we need to do, let me pop over here. What we need to do is make sure that our new texture matches our strange our strange little design element here. So let's go ahead and say, now that it's a smart object, let's go to, I think, we can go to hue and saturation if we want, because I just want to tone that down to match it. And I think that that does match pretty darn well. Let's go ahead and zoom in. I think I nailed that. Kind of takes a little bit of eyeballing, but I think I did that pretty well. We could like bring it into purple. I feel like, no. This is the one time VooDoo Val was gonna say no to purple because it's not working. What do you guys think? I think that looks pretty cool. And this is what we're gonna do with it. I really like this swooping shape we have going on. So let's go ahead and experiment with the free transform. Let's do this. I like it. Okay. And we're going to do some masking. Let's go ahead and cut this off. And I'm going to duplicate this guy and we'll hide that one. And I'm going to take my lasso tool and we are going to click, select inverse, and let's go ahead and mask that out. I'm also, I'll clean it up just a little bit. Let's make this smoother. Deselect, we'll snag the lasso again. You know what, I was just gonna say, I wish there was smoothing on this so that I could be smooth, but what I can do is I can just grab a brush and I can turn the smoothing up on a brush and we can paint instead of lassoing. Yeah. So we are gonna kind of let this generation, that Firefly or generative fill has given us, and we are going to kind of let it guide us through how this orientation of the poster is really going to look. We're going to kind of let it lead us through our project, and we're going to start layering and overlapping elements with it, because that looks pretty cool. We can get like a really cool texture in there and start to like in the back and start to really overlap things. So let's see what it would look like if I also removed this. Boom. Maybe this as well. And then maybe we can honestly use one of those other textures. Boom. Let me kind of bring that up. And I am going to hold the tilde key. Nope, can't do that. Okay. Let's go ahead and lasso this out because I've kind of erased this little area here. And then I need to check and see how we're doing on time. Make sure I'm not letting it get away from me. Let's go ahead and paint bucket. Deselect. Okay, we are starting to create actually kind of a super cool thing. Let me peek at time. Oh, we still have like 25 minutes. As a previous science person, I've always had to be exact, so the precision is easy and fun. That's really interesting, Marcy. I find that, like, you know, when we do live streams here and we're like a lot of artists are explaining things, sometimes we do not have words for things. Sometimes we invent new accurate words for stuff, like the thingamajig and the little, you know, boop thing, you know, like so I found that, like, I am so used to kind of creating words and deciding what something's going to be called because I don't have a word for it, that when I go to be incredibly precise and describe a prompt, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what that thing is called. No dissolve. Now dissolve blend mode is our only hope. twisted the dark side. Val has become the girl we trained with purple. Gone she is. I am loving the Star Wars references in the chat. Who are you and what did you do with Val? Wait, no purple? Oh no. Val said no purple. Quick, somebody check if pigs are flying outside. You know what? I was not prepared for the rush of incredulity following me say we're not purple today. I don't even know how to react to this, folks. Boop is descriptive, but Gen Phil may not love it. Boop is very descriptive, Marcy. You're very correct about that. But the generative features in Photoshop may not know what you're talking about. Okay, so we have kind of like altered this, and I really like this. So let's kind of take a look and see what we can do with our interesting effects. So if I want to drag this guy underneath here, maybe I can kind of come in and, you know, like hide this right here. Honestly, the edge of that kind of goes nicely. I wonder what happens if we kind of turn it a little bit. That's kind of cool. I don't know what it means, but it looks pretty neat, honestly. And it would be cool to have like elements of this. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. Like more elements similar to this, kind of hidden throughout, but it would also be interesting to kind of looks like a percent sign. Let's kind of hide this right here and just use that as a design element. I wonder what would happen if we created a line, like a really sharp line, and kind of had it looping through things. What if we did that? I don't know. Let's kind of test this out. Let's go ahead and create a background. I'm gonna unhide all of these different generative pieces back here, and let's see what we can come up with. Okay. This is gonna look insane until I actually finish it. Bear with me, folks, because I have a plan for this. Let's go ahead and grab these. We're gonna group those together just so I can hide and unhide. We're gonna come back to our generative layer. I'm gonna go ahead and hit generate one last time and see if we can get something that's a little smooth. And what we're gonna create is a dark texture in the back. We're gonna use some blend modes and some of these generative layers, and we're going to create a very subtle sort of noise background to kind of create this idea that we are looking past that first layer of stuff and into a depth of sorts. And honestly, this might work or this might work. I think we're gonna go with this one. Let's go ahead and go with this one. I'm gonna duplicate that, and we are going to rasterize it. So we have a nice little texture. We're gonna delete that layer mask. And then let's go ahead and hide this, and let's use some blending modes to kind of get this going. Okay, I am going to, first of all, let's go ahead and paint bucket some, on a new layer, Control Shift N or Command Shift N. Let's go ahead and paint with that. I'm gonna bring back the dissolve brush for those of you who panicked when I said we're not using purple today. We're gonna bring this back. Let's grab a dark color here, and we are going to create a little noise texture. We're going to create a little noise texture. For those of you who have never seen me use the dissolve brush, basically what I've got going on here is I have used a soft round brush, which is a default brush available to you within Photoshop, and I have changed the brush mode, not the blend mode just yet, but the brush mode to dissolve. And it gives us this really nice kind of noisy texture here. So we're gonna do this, okay? We're gonna get this going on. I don't want it to be too bright in places. I really do want it to be like mostly dark, but we're gonna use a blend mode with this new interesting texture. It almost looks like something is trying to come into focus. And let's go ahead and throw this whole layer on a blend mode and see what we can get. Now I have a suspicion that multiply is probably going to work, or overlay is probably going to work. Uh-oh, overlay is incredible. Ruh-roh. Let's alter our colors here a little bit. Let's go ahead and alter this color. I'm going to grab my hue and saturation and make it more blue. Let's kind of bring up our saturation there. Because I just had an idea. Okay, not bad. Bear with me. Let me make it like blue to kind of match what's in the background there. Okay. Whew, I think I just came up with a super great idea. So that in the background is pretty great. I'm gonna create a new layer with just a black brush on dissolve, and I'm going to start kind of blocking out some of this, like adding a little bit more depth and darkness, because this is starting to look cool. And then we're gonna come up here with a clipping mask, so Control-Shift-N or Command-Shift-N to make a new layer. I'm gonna right-click that and convert to clipping mask. Where's my clipping mask? Hello? Create clipping mask. And we are going to, with a little bit of darkness, I'm going to kind of, let me turn the flow down on this. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a little bit of depth around the edges by like adding some shadow to really make this seem like it's a 3D shape, okay? And then we are going to use our text to kind of overlap some stuff within this. Let's go ahead and also, I'll make another layer, and I'm going to, because I don't want it to be completely obscured back here, but I do want a little more depth and darkness added to this. Let's go ahead and crank that down too. So we've got like that interesting texture in the back, and we've got this, you know, kind of clipped texture over top of this swirl that's starting to make it look like it's like 3D, like it's like this substance that's kind of spiraling around. And you know what? As much as I love our text effect, I almost feel like we should come in with a clean type in like a bold white and kind of use masks to develop a like interwoven kind of pattern. And this is what I mean by that. So if I go ahead and I'm gonna hit T on my keyboard and throw in some lorem ipsum. Let's use an O, okay? And let's take a look. I think we're gonna actually, let's see what kind of weights. This only has one weight, so let's come into Montserrat, because Montserrat is my go-to almost every time I need something like this. Let's make, let's do a thin. Okay. And let's make this white, make this show up. Uh-oh. And let's go ahead and transform this. Actually, let's create a smart object. And I suppose, honestly, I could have just done this with the shape tool. In fact, maybe we do that with some of our other shapes, but let's go ahead and convert to smart object. Slightly unnecessary, but let's go ahead and do this ring right here. How much time do we have? We're good. And let's come in here to our group, and I'm going to hold control and I'm going to click that mask, okay? And what we can do is a little something like this. So I've clicked that mask, not the layer itself, but the mask to kind of select that shape that I've got going on here. We're going to come back to our smart object of our ring, and I'm going to hit mask, and you can see it masks out a lot of what we've got going on. In fact, I'm actually going to, with my selection tool, I'm going to select inverse because I want to mask it differently. So let's go ahead and mask it like that. But then on our mask, I'm going to come in with my brush. I'm going to make this a sharp brush, not the soft round. Bring it off of our dissolve. make sure I don't have caps locks on so I can actually see the shape, the size and shape of my cursor. And I'm going to kind of start doing something like that. This is actually kind of cool. Is it in the mail for me? Why do I feel Val is about to kick into high gear? Because I just had a great idea, and you know, and Sean, we follow Val blindly. Don't do that. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Don't follow me completely blindly. Go off on your own tangents. That's what's encouraged here. Yeah, I think that I just like had like a major epiphany as far as what we should do with this, and we do have a little bit of time left, so I think what I'd like to do as well is, first of all, let's use our blending modes or our hue and saturation to, actually not hue and saturation, let's use levels to kind of brighten this a little bit. I do want to brighten to really bring this out from the background because I think that it needs a little bit more visibility. I like that. And another thing that I want to do is let's do kind of what we have been doing with our text effects on to our ring here. So, you know, I thought maybe it was a mistake to have made that a ring, but really it's not, because it's still something that we can edit. This is still a text layer, so we could technically come in and edit this, but let's also apply a displacement map as we have been doing with the other text. So let's go to filter, displace. I don't know how this is going to go because we're using a displacement map that is different than the background that we have right now, but you know, let's play around. Oh, that's actually really cool. That's really cool. I think that's pretty neat, honestly. And I wonder if we could kind of change the color. Let's go ahead and double click this, open up layer styles, and let's do a like color overlay and see if we can sample like a brighter blue. Just to give it, you know, I don't think that a blending mode over top of this would really do much because it's just a solid white. That's kind of neat. And then I wonder what happens if we duplicate our O, and let's take the displacement off. And let's take the color off. And out of curiosity, because I want to know what would happen if we made the ring smaller. Maybe not. Let me go and unlink this because I want to keep the mask going, but I also, yeah. Okay, so what I did here, folks, is I unlinked our layer from our mask. So that allows me to move my element freely within the mask in a way that allows me to, like, if I come over here, let's go ahead and transform it. You see how it keeps that mask going, which is very, very useful, while kind of altering it while it is linked. It moves it as if it's something that's been erased from it, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and move this one like so and see. That's kind of interesting. I don't know. I think this is kind of cool. I might remove our main circle here and then just, you know, kind of do stuff like that around on it. But another thing we can do, because we've got about 7 minutes left, this is kind of neat. I might take the color overlay off of this, honestly, because I do like it with like that stark white. But another thing we can do is kind of change up the way we have layered some of these things. So let's go ahead and snag all of our layers. I'm going to group that together, and we're going to call this poster. And everything that we're not using, I'm going to snag and throw into the info. All of this stuff here. Let's go put that into info just so we can clean this up. Now, something that would be interesting is I'm going to duplicate this poster, and it's kind of a lot of files to duplicate, and I'm going to say Control E to merge it, I'm gonna hide what's underneath. I'm going to Controller Command A to select my canvas and then hit Controller Command J to duplicate it. So I know that, you know, because I've got a lot of different smart objects and things within that merged layer and I don't want anything on the outskirts. Oh, so this is massive. Would you like to save it in large format? Sure. It's huge now. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little fun, funky thing where we, instead of having the poster itself go to the very edges, the very border of our piece, we're going to crop it like so. And we are going to paint bucket back here behind with a dark color. And then let's snag, didn't I have, yeah, let's snag these here. Because this is like a nice texture. Let's snag those. With a white background behind, just so that this is, you know, kind of give it some contrast. Or gray at least. Okay. Let's turn the opacity back up on this so it's a little more dramatic. Okay. I wonder if we can duplicate or merge all that. Let's turn this to like a blue that kind of matches something in here. You know, give it like a subtle blue. And let's kind of flip through our blending modes on this just to give it a, ooh, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere, folks. This is gonna be a legit poster. We've got just 4 minutes left, and I feel like in the last few minutes is when this is actually really turned into like a pretty cool poster. Now, we could do something cool. I'm wondering what it would look like if we put a stroke on this. Let's go ahead and say stroke white. Let's say inside and kind of crank that up. I like that. Okay. Let's call this Adobe Live. Uh-oh. This is actually a legitimately cool poster. Let's go ahead and transform that. I kind of need this in caps. Kind of need this in caps. Adobe Live presents. Let's not make this over 100 point. Let's make this like a 12 point. And perhaps not in thin. Let's do like a medium, maybe more of a 16. Boom, Adobe Live presents. So we have like a little subtitle here, and then we can duplicate that, and let's bring this down and do like a large. I don't know what this poster is called. Whatever this is. But you can see how it's like turning into a legitimate poster, okay? We've got about 2 minutes left. Love from the Trudges, how you feeling, King Slime? I don't know. Is there somebody named King Slime in the chat, or am I King Slime, Armando? I'll take that. I'll take that nickname. That's kind of an intimidating nickname. That's the nickname of somebody where you really don't know what they're capable of, and I approve of it. Okay. Let's go ahead. The last thing I'm going to do is, let's go ahead and put this here. I do want this to be like the width of that, honestly. And then the last thing is I'll come in with my brush because I love my, my brush here, and I do, oops. Let's make sure it's soft around and it's on dissolve because I just want to add a little more darkness to the edge here. But this is pretty cool. So we have a whole poster And I'm honestly shocked. I had a plan for this today, folks, but sometimes creativity has its own ideas, and I did not know that this was going to turn out quite like this. But honestly, I'm pretty satisfied. I think that it's a great combination of all of the different techniques that we have been utilizing all of this week. It's very abstract, but also pretty cool. I would maybe noodle around with my text and what I'm actually calling it, you know, because we ran out of time there, but I'm pretty satisfied with it. So thank you all for joining me for this design recap, an hour-long design recap. I've had a blast. I hope you have too, and I hope you will stay tuned for the other recaps coming up after this and hang out with our other instructors. So thank you all so much, and I will see you next week. Adios, folks.